Live on a Saturday morning, it's Betting Above the Rim Pro Basketball today. Kevin Walsh here, and we have plenty of WNBA action that we've been following throughout the week and that we have on our slate today. And the main game on this board is the Indiana Fever and the New York Liberty. Those two opponents, by the way, who go head-to-head, have each played the Chicago Sky and Angel Reese, and appropriately, we are heading to Coach's Corner, where some picks, some breakdowns, and maybe some advice will follow.
Big game in the WNBA as the defending WNBA champions New York Liberty take on the biggest star in the WNBA and Caitlin Clark at 1 o'clock. And it's going to be an interesting game, folks. A New York Liberty team that's played relatively well to start the season at 2-0, two blowout wins, versus the Indiana team that a little up and down, splitting their two-game set with the Atlanta Dream. And when you look at this matchup, you got to look strictly at the superstars, and that is obviously Caitlin Clark. And then on the other side, Sabrina Ionescu, in regards to what you expect out of them. New York Liberty right now 3.5 to 4-point favorites. But when you look at these two superstars, to me, it's also going to be based on how they guard, right? For instance, do I see Sabrina Ionescu with a points prop at 16.5? Over now in the 2.5 made threes. Remember, Sabrina Ionescu had the WNBA record for most consecutive games with made threes. She missed out on that in the opening night win versus obviously the Las Vegas Aces. So I'm looking at her to go over 2.5 made threes in this matchup, as I expect her to get loose. When you go to the other side, you look at Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark, that's now the minus money favorite to be the league MVP, points prop at 21.5 over under 3.5 made threes, 9.5 assists, 5.5 rebounds. To me, it's going to be based off the matchup you're going to see. I think Caitlin Clark lives for these moments. She had a rough shooting game last game, only having, I think, 11 points. So this points prop could be in play. But I want to see, especially if you're going to bet this game live, is who guards Caitlin Clark. To me, I would not be sending Sabrina Ionescu on her. I would be looking at someone like Natasha Cloud to be guarding Caitlin Clark because of her ability to create off the bounce. A really big-time matchup with these two teams, and this is why the WNBA, and Kevin and I have done this for so long, where we've knocked this league for some of the scheduling. They got it right. Saturday, 1 o'clock, there's, I'm not watching the Mets. The Mets play tonight, but they're probably going to lose anyway because they stink. But then you start looking at no NBA until 8:30 tonight. This is a big-time matchup with the Liberty minus 3.5 versus the Indiana Fever, Kev.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And you think about, these are two teams that, when they met last year, the Liberty consistently would pour it on Indiana. One of the turning points of the season for the Fever, though, was when they finally beat the Liberty, and it felt like they had kind of arrived. Their meeting today, though, is not supposed to be the champs up against, this up-and-coming group. It's the champs and a team that believes that they can take that title this year. Two teams that are priced like they can win the championship during this WNBA season. In order for that to be true for the Fever, they're going to have to clean up, I think, some of the defensive stuff that game number 1 we saw had a lot more to do maybe with the Sky than the Fever. The Liberty to win the championship, they're going to need consistency out of their superstars. We're still waiting for it from Sab, but I've liked what I've seen from Brianna so far to open the season here, Tom. I expect her to have a great game. I know you do as well.
Yeah, I do as well. We weren't on air last week for the start of the Liberty game, but we came in right at the end of that. They obviously looked great, taking down the Vegas Aces in the win. And looking back at their most recent game, obviously against Chicago, a team that, Coach, you were talking about is maybe one of the worst teams in the league, the bottom teams in the league, but ultimately Stewart didn't have to do a whole lot. 4 other players in double digits. Obviously, Cloud knocking down threes, which is great to see. This has to be, I don't want to say a bounce-back game, because, again, she didn't play bad. The competition that they had him in arm's reach the entire time. So we'll get into some of the props later. 8 field goal attempts from Stewie is just far too low on a game-by-game basis. The double-double potential is there for her on a game-by-game basis as well, kind of, foreshadowing for what I do like for her points and rebounds, which we will get to. I expect this to be a higher-scoring game. I know you like the points as well. We've had some producers in the background saying they like Indiana outright, first half, whatever it might be. I want to stick with Stewart getting some points and rebounds. We'll get to that later, though.
Yeah, I think this is going to be such a big matchup. I think for the Fever, this is an important game for them because if you remember, Kevin was talking about it, that game in the second half, I felt like when they won that game at home, and it was a big comeback, if I'm not mistaken, Kevin, a fourth quarter, where like they've arrived. In order for Indiana to compete today, DeWanna Bonner's got to be better than what she's been. She was brought in to be an experience factor, but someone that's not afraid to take the big shots. She struggled a little bit. For the New York Liberty, yes, they got to get Stewart involved. They got to kind of figure out how they want to use Natasha Cloud. She's had the ball on her hands a lot, and this is someone that can create. I think it's kind of led to a little bit of a regression in regards to Sabb, because sometimes that ball would be in Sabb's hands, not even running the offense versus Cloud. The matchup, to me, that's going to be key to this game is the 4-5. It's Brianna and Jonquel versus Natasha Howard and Aaliyah Boston. And, Kevin and I were talking pre-show about the fact of, who does Aaliyah Boston guard? Because if I'm Stephanie White, I don't want her guarding Stewie. I just think that's just way too much. But then you go on to Jonquel. Jonquel Jones can step up from the three-point line, right, and shoot the three, which now brings Aaliyah Boston, which now can create driving lanes for a Cloud to get to the basket and kick out for threes. I think Indiana's going to have problems defensively, but I do think the Liberty may have problems as well, Kevin. I really think this game is going to push way over to 173.5, I do believe, right now.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing if that's how it plays out. Caitlin Clark, by the way, is coming off of the first ever game in her WNBA career without a made three. I think that's a category she could bounce.
Sabb didn't have it the first game, so
those streaks are completely. I wonder who owns it now.
Probably like a Jackie Young or Kelsey Plum.
Yeah,
something like with the high shot volume.
That's actually where I don't know how I could figure that out. I might look into it though. I'll quickly bring up Dream Wings. Paige. Her start to this season, I think, is fine, all things considered. She's at, if you round up, 14-5-7. Caitlin, through her first 3 games last year, was, I think, at around 17-5-5. Paige, not super efficient, but again, it's somewhat to be expected to, start a career. I think the difficult thing for Dallas is they're 0-3, booked as an underdog once again here now playing Atlanta. This Wings team, I don't really see any pathway right now for this to end up one of our playoff teams this year.
Oh, absolutely not. No way.
The problem, though, with that, JY, is I was not super high on the team entering the season. I don't think that was completely the expectations. I mean, Enrique is a proven player within this league. Dejanay Carrington was a pretty considerable pickup for this group as well. They did hang with Minnesota in that third game. The Lynx are playing some close games. They're still 4-0, and Afisha Collier is off to an unbelievable start to her season. What do you think of the matchup between Dallas and Atlanta? What do you think about Dallas overall?
Atlanta's been a really good team. You and I talked before the show. The Brianna Jones, Brittany Griner double barrel big has worked better than I thought. And obviously, Ryan Harold is an absolute stud. I do think I like Paige to go over her points props today. It hasn't been super efficient, but she's played the Minnesota Lynx, arguably the best defensive team in the league, and a Seattle team that you think and I think is a top 5 team. Step down in class. Should be a step up in points today for Paige Beckers.
I'm looking at points and assists for her. That's what I think I'm going. 20 and a half. A little bit juice on the over at -122. But again, even if she's inefficient, the volume should be there overall.
Also, just keep your eyes on the WNBA MVP market. If Clark and the Fever struggle today, Collier could move to the favorite. We'll talk some rumors next here on SportsGrid.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
I'm not saying this thing is scripted, but damn it, they put those two teams on the first weekend of the basketball season for a reason, because they were expecting some kind of fireworks. They got it. Did Angel Reese overreact? Probably. Did Caitlin Clark have to stare it down? Probably not. There's enough blame to go both sides. But guess who doesn't care? That's the WNBA.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series where they rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Betting above the rim, the moment you've been waiting for. Can, will, should the Lakers trade for Rudy Gobert? I am starting the rumor all on my own. Okay.
Can they is different than should they.
So do you think there's a world where the Lakers, if they could, shouldn't?
No, but I'm saying we're talking about money at that point. We're talking about salaries.
Yeah, I can make the salaries work.
Can.
Easily.
Okay, I mean, from a fundamental puzzle piece standpoint, yes. Like, great fit.
Like, where are you at, JY, on Minnesota and Gobert this offseason?
Gone. Get rid of them.
Gone. Get rid of them. I mean, listen, this is the way they're going to use him, right? And literally, one, if this is where they use him, I don't know why they gave him the extension that they did. Or two, why they didn't trade him instead of Cat. Oh, I know why, because he made more money. And it was easier. Cat can bring back more in return. Could I see them going to Naz Reid in the starting lineup and moving Gobert and trying to get like more of a point guard and more backcourt help to help out? And yes, I just don't know money-wise how it lines up. So I'm going to start working on trade proposals as you talk about why you think he's going to the league.
Well, look, here's my thing on Rudy Gobert. I'm just gonna say, sometimes I just try and see if a very simple trade can work. Okay. Rui Hachimura for Austin and Austin Reeves for Rudy Gobert works.
Money-wise?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only and you know what? I'm shocked. Rudy Gobert only makes $35 million.
Yeah, the contract was almost at this point now like a while ago, right, JY? Now, Laker fans would hear that and, go insane because you can't possibly get rid of Austin Reeves and then the return is Rudy Gobert. This is kind of one of the reasons I bring this up is I'm trying to gauge the value on Rudy Gobert. Is Rudy Gobert seen as a negative asset now after what this postseason has been? In which case you wouldn't have to give up Austin Reeves, most likely. But if he's a negative asset, then is Minnesota really going to lose Rudy Gobert, who at minimum should at least be valuable to them in the regular season when, they want to compete for seeding and things of that nature? I think it's one of the interesting items of this offseason that we've not heard anything about because Minnesota's season is still ongoing.
I think the issue is if you, let's just say we try to make it work, right? I think if I looked at it right, Kev, you could swap out, if Rudy's diminished value is so bad, I think you could swap out Austin Reeves for Dorian Finney-Smith and the money still works. I mean, I'm just kind of looking at it. I think I got it right. But the problem is if you do that, you have to attach a draft pick to it. And I think the first time the Lakers can trade their first-round draft pick, I do believe it's 2031. So that is.
I think they have a pick this year.
Well, they have a second-round pick in this year's draft. And then it's 26 round one, 28 round one, 30 round one, which we all know you can't trade it unless they are getting something back in a different trade than moving that pick. So you're looking at a 2031 draft pick. You're looking at Dorian Finney-Smith, and you're looking at Rui Hachimura. I don't know if that's enough to entice Minnesota. I think they're going to have to put Austin Reeves in a deal. And then maybe you could pull back the pick and maybe throw the 2025 second-round pick instead.
But, Dorian Finney-Smith is a non-factor.
Yeah, I think
he adds nothing to Minnesota. Reeves would be interesting.
But Reeves is more valuable in the open market than Rudy Gobert right now. It's not even close.
Sure, I agree with that. But I'm saying, just because the money works with them, adding in DFS instead of Reeves doesn't mean Minnesota wants that. He would just be traded at another point. Reeves is someone you can have, you'd extend, he'd be on the team, grow alongside Ants, and now you actually have some options to work with. DFS is just all right, he's just a depth player, and we may move him at the trade deadline for someone else.
So I'm just thinking outside the box for the Lakers' perspective, right? So we think of some kind of rim protecting, shot blocking big. But what happens if someone that could step out and shoot the ball? Now I'm going to talk about the unthinkable. Could the Lakers and the Celtics make a trade? Could Porzingis be someone that can go?
We spoke about an option last week.
I mean,
if you remember.
Yeah. I don't know how I haven't looked into the money at all.
I haven't looked into the money, but I think again systematically it would work.
If Philly is open to trading Embiid, are the Lakers a team that's willing to take that chance?
That's not who I was talking about.
What do you? Oh, Nick Claxton.
I think Claxton would be a fit of hey, it actually does what they kind of need. Whether or not the money works, whether or not Brooklyn would be willing to trade him is a different story.
To me, the reason why, as much as I like Rudy, I don't think it works is Luka needs a big that can be you could run a pick and roll flop to throw the ball.
Do you know how much he'd get out of Gobert?
I know, but do you think that if you had your druthers, would you rather have Gobert or Porzingis?
I don't trust Kristaps to stay healthy. I'd rather have Gobert. I think that's where I'm at now on KP.
Yeah.
If you told me I could cure, Kristaps, and I'm not talking about the sickness. KP missed games before he was sick. He missed games last year. I don't trust him to be healthy. That's me. Listen, I am just throwing out the Gobert thing only because if you told me that if the Lakers were able to start next year, Luka, LeBron, DFS, Gobert, and figure out who the fifth is, it might be a little bit balanced. It becomes a really interesting thing. I'll throw this out here as well because we're going to talk some draft, and I wanted to hold the Giannis piece of this. We heard there was supposed to be a meeting with management sometime within the next 7 days from Chris Haynes. I feel like Giannis doesn't want to ask out, but wants out.
Yeah.
I think he's like, hey, if you trade me,
he's not that guy.
I'm not going to be mad.
No, he's not. I don't think he's that guy that's going to go in and at least publicly.
I think he's just wants to be loved in Milwaukee forever, and he wants to make sure that that's true. So he wants it to be, guys, I've loved it here. It's best for both of us. Instead of some of the ugly exits, Harden in Houston, Jimmy Miami, Dame in Portland. He does not. He wants 34, which it will be, in the rafters someday as a member of the Milwaukee Bucks, and he wants to make sure that there's no questions because is Jimmy Butler's number going to get retired by Miami?
No.
I now don't know. Jimmy Butler's a Miami Heat legend.
But to me, he's not.
Look, yes, he's not
there long enough. I think that's the thing. And
LeBron was there for 4 years, and 6 is going up there.
Yeah, well, he hung a couple of championship banners up there. There you go. I literally walked right into it.
Yeah,
NBA draft.
Unbelievable.
Next,
reeled you in
right here on SportsGrid. What?
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
I'm not saying this thing is scripted, but damn it, they put those two teams on the first weekend of the basketball season for a reason, because they were expecting some kind of fireworks. They got it. Did Angel Reese overreact? Probably. Did Caitlin Clark have to stare it down? Probably not. There's enough blame to go both sides. But guess who doesn't care? That's the WNBA.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series where they rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
First overall, Cooper Flag. All right, San Antonio, you're up. Maybe.
Confirmed? He's going first?
Well, it's a good question, Tom. If you bet $1,000 on Coop to go 1, you can get back $1.
Hey,
Hey,
that's a
that's
pretty good
what,
rate of
I mean,
return.
it's a guaranteed rate of return right there. A little better than a savings account. If it's like point,
Get
is
Pat
it more than
Foster in
savings?
here laying this.
No, I don't know. I don't know if anyone's going to lay that. I think we do know that Cooper Flag is going to go first overall.
Of course.
Every indication is that Dallas will avoid doing anything all, too crazy, and they'll hold on to the pick.
They're wild card, man.
It's the indication. We also, though, have a minus 2,400 number on Dylan Harper. Again, it is not the 1,000 to win $1. It's $24 to win $1. Still pretty heavy, though, when you consider we don't know who's picking second overall. I almost would argue against myself, though, and say, since we don't know, it's why the Harper price is so strong. Because the thought is if San Antonio does trade the second pick, whomever then ends up with that pick will draft Dylan Harper.
Correct.
So is that the case, JY? Is there some value then in potentially fading Harper at 2? Do you think the Spurs can have Harper, Castle, and Fox on the roster?
I don't see how it works. I think the biggest issue that we probably have that no one wants to talk about is Ace Bailey was supposed to be 6'11", and he came in at like 6'7", 6'8". All right, Rutgers, I guess the Rutgers School of Education does not know how to measure their athletes. Now, I'm not going to lie, JY is 6'5". I said I was 6'7", so I guess I lied 2 inches myself. But to me, I think that's where it becomes interesting because I don't know if I would do that. I would look at if you keep the roster the same, is maybe you draft Ace Bailey at 2, unless there's going to be a move. And then if there's a trade made, Kevin or Tom, it's going to be based on the needs because I think honestly, I think Harper and Bailey are so they're so close to me that it comes down to not the best available prospect. It comes down to what my team need is. So if it is, let's say for argument's sake, if it was Philadelphia that had the second pick, it wouldn't be Dylan Harper at minus 2,400. It would be Ace Bailey because you wouldn't need Dylan Harper with that lineup of Maxine McCain coming back, which then leads to an interesting thing. If it happens that San Antonio, Tom, does trade 2, and the need is for Ace Bailey, then you could see Dylan Harper maybe even slide to 4, right? Because of the fact of there is not a necessary need to have Dylan Harper even on the Sixers.
Right. So the question is A, will San Antonio keep the pick?
Yep.
B, if not, who does that pick go to, and then what are their needs? Because if we're talking about, should we be considering Ace Bailey, at 12-1 for the number 2 pick, that's not the only question we have to be asking. Do we need to be considering Dylan Harper at 3 at 50-1?
Yeah, that's the number.
That's the interesting number, because again, it comes down to who has the pick. So the question is, who do they want to trade with? Mm-hmm. Who has that need that they hey, we have to move up. This is the player that we want to get, that we need to get, because the Harper Bailey in an ideal world, or in a normal world where the teams need everything, you can make the case that either one could go to either spot, but we just don't know who will end up with that number 2 pick.
So I think ultimately, right, to kind of, to bring together what you guys said, Philly drafting Harper may make less sense even than San Antonio. But at that point, if you were Philadelphia, you weren't supposed to be in this spot. And if Dylan Harper has, it has this gap that everybody believes he has over the rest of this class non-Cooper Flag division, you may just have to select him. Or at 3, you stop the fall and trade Dylan Harper to whomever wants to, Utah, Washington, come up and bring him into their roster. And I think that becomes very interesting, in that it is, so that I'm talking about that through the Philly prism. If San Antonio does not bring in Giannis or another, huge player that requires them to, give up this selection, could the Spurs trade with, again, Charlotte, Utah, Washington, Brooklyn, you name it, and offer up Dylan Harper then at 2nd overall? And that, right now, the books do believe the gap between Flag and Harper is almost as big as the gap between Harper and Bailey, Edgecombe, Knipple, wherever you land in this draft. We'll be right back here on SportsGrid.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
I'm not saying this thing is scripted, but damn it, they put those 2 teams on the first weekend of the basketball season for a reason, because they were expecting some kind of fireworks. They got it. Did Angel Reese overreact? Probably. Did Caitlin Clark have to stare it down? Probably not. There's enough blame to go both sides. But guess who doesn't care? That's the WNBA.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series where they rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid Live on a Saturday morning. Kevin Walsh, Tom Vecchio, Coach James Young. It's Betting Above the Rim, pro basketball. Today, the NBA Western Conference Finals. We'll see the third game of this series, and NBA history tells us that this series is on the line tonight for Minnesota. The same will be true for the Knicks in Game 3. Still yet to see anyone in NBA history come back from a 3-0 series deficit. The bright side for Minnesota, there's a much shorter line than I think maybe some would have anticipated. Certainly a lot shorter than the numbers that we saw when the games were in Oklahoma City. Down to just a 2.5-point number here. The Thunder still booked as a favorite. Total right now, 218. JY, break this game down.
Yeah, I think it comes down to is can we get the performances that we talked about, particularly the big three of Minnesota. Now, obviously, going back home, you expect your team to shoot better, particularly the role guys that Tom referred to, the Alexander Walkers, and Nod Reed, the Mike Conleys, Rudy Gobert, if they play
He
him.
shoots?
Any kind of, yeah, if they give him the ball. You know, I still remember Rudy Gobert getting the ball in the post in the Olympics in like 2016. I'm like, psh, what's Quinn Snyder doing? Give this guy the ball. Well, it's still 7-8 years later, and they still don't give it to him. That's a story for another day. But this has got to be the best chance we have here for Minnesota. So I don't think they're getting swept. I could see a pathway that they win today, they lose Game 4, and they get blown out in Game 5.
Absolutely.
I'm going to take a chance on Minnesota on the money line to get the win today, and I'm going to go over because I do think they're going to shoot the ball much better at home.
So coming into this game, I'm agreeing with you. Like I think 5 games is at best case scenario for Minnesota is what we happen. But in order for that to happen, it's like what is like the path? It's like they got to come out strong. So whether it's a first half that you want to be looking to, which the more and more I think about it, something I like, first quarter, it has to be a strong start for them. If they're down by, alluding to your Larry Holmes kind of take from before, if they're down by 8 at halftime, they don't win this. There's no way they win this game. They just don't have the offense that can go toe-to-toe with the Thunder combined with their defense to put them in the spot to win if they're down at halftime. So if you want to get I think it's half point for the first quarter and it's a 1.5 points for the first half, I'd be a little more comfortable with the first half, but they got to come out strong. And whether it's looking to specifically Julius Randle first quarter, something that I was just looking at during the break, he had, based on where he ended that game, 4.5 points from Randle in the first quarter. You got to get him going early. He's got to score. He's got to be a threat. It can't all be Ant.
No, it can't. This is going to be a team that I think today shoots a ton of threes. That market's not out just yet, but Minnesota teammate threes is something I'll take a look at when it does come available. Yeah,
okay.
I think it's a little bit hard to slice down where the bounce backs will specifically come from, but if you take a look at last game, you got 1 of 9 from Anthony Edwards, 1 of 4 from Mike Conley, 0 of 3 Randall, and then 0 of 5 Naz Reid.
You don't care who it is. Let's just get some shots up.
Yeah, I think any of those guys could certainly step up and have themselves a better performance here. I actually think the pathway for Minnesota in this series is, can we get to 120 more so than we're going to win a tough-nosed, ugly game?
That over. They have to push your pace. Kevin, really quick, because I know you've talked about Lou Dort.
Yeah.
Like if I am Chris Finch and I'm looking at them and I'm like, okay, if I'm not going to let SGA beat me, like I'm worried about Joe Williams. Like to me, Lou Dort 7.5 points. Like he's going to get the shot volume. So he should be able to get there.
For two made threes, we're at -115. Usually all of his scoring will come from beyond the arc. He made 2 of 7 last game. He was only 1 of 3 in the opening game. But if you look at Lou Dort throughout this postseason, the volume is there. It's his role for this team. You could certainly suggest that on the road he is not to be as trusted. But against Denver in the 2 road games the last 2 road games, he was 2 of 10, 2 of 7. Again, the thing for Dort, he has not had a good performance from beyond the arc in this postseason. If you look, he's basically been a 40% three-point shooter the last 2 years in the regular season. These playoffs, he's at 28%. There's a world that Lou Dort could give you, let's say this series let's just say this series goes 6. He could give you 4 makes in 3 of those games. It's really on the board, I think, because he is due for – the volume's not dropping. The efficiency is.
Right.
And that's a balance between so many players where it's like they can be super efficient, but they may not always have the volume with Dort. The chances will be there. the space
sure.
will be there. It's a matter of him just knocking down the shots that he's given.
100%. 100%. For me, as far as an outright winner in this game, I find myself slightly leaning towards OKC just because I think that there is a level of, blood in the water for them right now.
Absolutely.
I think they know they messed around a little bit with Denver. I feel fine saying that. I don't think that's disrespectful to the Nuggets. The Thunder were significantly better than that team. They won one game by 40, and they closed them out by 30+. They just had these lapses, and I think that they kind of have learned from that a little bit. They've had some of those third quarters that remind you a little bit of the Warriors when they used to avalanche teams, and obviously OKC's done that now in 2 consecutive games to open this series. But the side in this one is, so far it's 2-0 OKC. I've not seen a side yet where I go, clear and obvious. I lean Minnesota game 1, lost. Leaned OKC game 2, got it. I lean OKC here again, but it's not bounced off of the page. Tell me, Coach, when it comes to Ant or SGA, whether it would be backing or fading, which star would you be more locked in on for this game?
I think if I think I'm going to get points, I got to look at Ant going over his points.
Okay.
Because if it speaks to over, right, it speaks to you saying they got to get to 120. Mm-hmm. There's no way to get to 120, and Ant's got 19 points.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, he's got to have a big game. But I'm going to say something that's interesting because we were spending a lot of time talking about him. If you're going to, and this is just a coaching thought, if you're going to try and run, that means you need to rebound. Mm-hmm. And that means Rudy Gobert over 8.5 rebounds. They need him to board it because they need to leak out and get out on the break. So to me, I look at Rudy Gobert over 8.5 rebounds as the play here. But then if you look at it that way, if you're thinking that Rudy's going to be in to rebound and outlet it, then you got to be worried about him on the offensive rebounding, which means Isaiah Hartenstein's rebounds are at 7.5. So Rudy Gobert, I'm going big man time. Rudy Gobert over 8.5 rebounds. Isaiah Hartenstein over 7.5 rebounds, if I did see that correctly.
So we're going to get into some props later specifically for this game to close out.
You can give them out now.
All right, so we'll get to it. Ant Edwards over 12.5 rebounds plus assists. So if we're expecting him to shoot better at home, most people agree with that. Role players shoot better at home, especially in the playoffs. And again, the rebounds will be there for him. But, seeing 9-3, 9-6, at least in this series, 7-12. I'm not expecting 12 assists from him. But if you get me to the close to 10 rebounds, players around him shoot better, we're going to be pushing over that 12 number. And again, the points are going to have to be there from the Timberwolves. They're not going to win this game or the series in a rock fight. They're going to win this because they can score points, and those last few possessions, it'll be close. The coin lands on, flips in their favor, and they can end up scoring a little bit more there. So Ant Edwards over 12.5. It was minus 122 a little bit earlier. I think it jumped up to minus 128, but I would still play it there.
One thing that I am fascinated with about Shea and all the scoring he does, he hasn't scored 40 yet in these playoffs. At plus 340 tonight, if you've just, say, been getting those odds each game, it's obviously you are getting destroyed this postseason. You are 0-13. Oh. The thing is, Shea doesn't have a 40-point postseason game under the belt. It's something that I'm going to just watch because if he gets out of this series without 40 points, which is on the board, it's a hard thing to do. I know he scored 38 the last game, and the finals is the current projected finals of
Run to the window.
Pacers Thunder. But I want to see the number, though, because if the pace is so high and then we're just booking SGA at 34.5, we're not going to get a great number. I just think it's going to be a really interesting thing to see. You wouldn't expect, with all his scoring, that you haven't seen a 40-pointer, but you haven't just yet. We'll talk some Knicks Pacers with you on SportsGrid next.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
I'm not saying this thing is scripted, but damn it, they put those two teams on the first weekend of the basketball season for a reason, because they were expecting some kind of fireworks. They got it. Did Angel Reese overreact? Probably. Did Caitlin Clark have to stare it down? Probably not. There's enough blame to go both sides. But guess who doesn't care? That's the WNBA.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series where they rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
With you right here on SportsGrid, we look to the Sunday night matchup between the Pacers and the Knicks, which you will get in-game live in-studio coverage for between myself and Coach James Young. Tom, we could not possibly ask to be a part of that because he's here today. He has pro baseball today, tomorrow in the morning. And I'm pretty sure if he left the second pro baseball today ended, he still wouldn't make it here in time for the start of Knicks Pacers with the traffic that we're expecting here on a lovely Memorial Day weekend. But still, Coach and I here for Pacers Knicks. Man, I've never done an in-game live where Coach is watching the Knicks.
No, we did. When we did the in-game live, the ending of the game 1 of Detroit.
Oh, that's right. So we weren't
a full game.
You're right. We weren't supposed to be doing that
but
game.
that game took forever, and we were on for like the second half.
But
That's
also,
right.
the stakes are much different now.
Yeah, they certainly are because, again, history suggests the Knicks' entire season
do we have to talk about this? I'm about to
is
walk
on
off.
the line.
I'm about to walk off set. This is
Well,
this is gonna be
Again,
Folks,
this is-
I'm gonna be. I'm just letting you know. I'm putting it out there right now because you guys have seen me during in-game live, and I'm a little bit out of control. It's going to be about 50 times worse tomorrow. I'm the most biased man in sports media is telling you right now, I'm going to be a mess. I'm going to be yelling at Tibbs. I'm going to be yelling at Cat to get me a damn rebound. I'm going to deal at...
you steal Brunson dribble?
That's so biased I am. I'm stealing K-Dub stuff.
And I can only imagine that Kevin, the most unbiased man in sports,
Thank you.
will be needling you.
He'll be the sous chef stirring the pot.
And throwing out some bait to be like, what do you think of Cat so far?
Is Foster working too? Because Foster will definitely be in my ear.
No, he listen, guys, we're gonna just watch the game. we're gonna have some fun.
No, if the
What do
Knicks
you
are losing,
mean?
I'm gonna be miserable.
I'll be fine.
I'm gonna be miserable. Really? You know what? I'm saying Knicks are winning tomorrow.
Oh.
Bucket. Here we go. Knicks are winning. See that guy? No, that's the wrong guy. See that guy? See him? He's over his assist prop. Jalen Brunson. He's going over his assist prop, and then go to K-Dub's shoulder. See that guy behind K-Dub? See that guy? Cat. Over 21.5 points.
Ooh.
Cat
Whoa.
over points.
Whoa.
Brunson over assists.
Whoa.
And Deuce gets loose. I'm back. Pat Foster reminded me of something. Shout out to my guy, Pat Foster. We still talk, even though my Knicks knocked out his Celtics out of the playoffs. But we talked about this. He said, JY, you used to be on Deuce McBride, and you got off the Deuce bus. But guess what? I'm back. Deuce McBride! Deuce gets loose! Deuce McBride over points prop. Let's get it. Let's go to New York.
It's not even posted.
I don't care. Over!
I mean, this is, I guess, some insight into how maybe the show will be. Again, Tom, do you have any thoughts on Knicks Pacers?
There's a part of me that wants to take the under. Like
Whoa! This guy's nuts. I can't believe you just out nuts, coach. I can't believe that. This guy's crazy. What are you talking about? Go to the ice cream shop and get in a small. What are you talking about?
Vanilla.
Small vanilla.
Yeah.
No sprinkles.
Oh, my goodness.
No, but there's a part of me that wants to take the under because it's getting to the point where I'm not sure the Knicks have the firepower on offense outside of Brunson to consistently score with the Pacers. So, again, what is, being objective about this, coach, how do the Knicks win a game or the series? They don't. Or I'll ask Kevin. Maybe
ask him to buy his Knicks on his network.
What's better for the Knicks? Trying to win games 130 to 130, 25, or trying to win games we'll keep it 108, 100.
I don't think Indiana will
slow
allow.
down the
I don't
Pacers.
think the Pacers will allow it.
But so again, my point is, if the Pacers won't allow it, it's the Knicks are not going to outscore them because the Pacers are just going to run away.
Well, in order to win the game, you got to outscore.
The only path for the Knicks to win is to keep it low. They're not going to outscore them 140 to 130. If that's the case, the Pacers win 99 times out of 100.
See, I'll push back. The Knicks again massively choked away game number one.
Sure.
That was a very high-scoring game. What the Knicks cannot have, they cannot have lulls. What you cannot have is the college basketball Chiron. You cannot watch a college game without has not scored a field goal in 3 minutes coming up. It's every single game. Virginia, I think they just keep it up when that group's playing. You cannot have that against the Pacers because it is always seemingly in that window where they are then giving, their absolute best and getting to the rim relentlessly. I actually, in the moment, am starting to think that a Knicks team total of 110.5 is a very legitimate look. The Pacers, at times, you could have that off night, right? So, but if the Pacers go and get theirs, that's fine. Look, the thing about the Pacers, they've not separated from the Knicks either, right? So it's not as if I would be surprised if this game went 125 to 105 Indiana. I don't really see that much of being on the board here. So, again, in the moment, I expect that the Knicks offense will be consistent because they can score consistently against the Pacers. I think even if the Knicks make some sacrifices in terms of personnel, starting Mitch Robb or whatever it might be, they're going to still be able to score the basketball somewhat consistently. So at least as we sit here on this Saturday, I think the Knicks team total is going to be in line.
Okay.
I mean, I could see that because you got to get better play out of certain people. And I just think if I think Cat, does better than 21.5, Deuce get you 8, 9, 10 points, Brunson's going to give you at least 25. I think the Knicks get up and over that total. It's just going to depend on, at Kev's point, do the Knicks have enough, honestly, to get to the finish line? Because it tends to be midway, late fourth quarter is when the wheels come off because they lose their legs. That means Tips has to rely on his bench more, and that's why I'm looking squarely at Deuce McBride's points prop when it comes out.
What do you even – I mean, I'll hand up accountability pie. Have they been consistently hanging the Deuce prop?
They have. I've seen it.
What? All right. I think you might have been baited into the.
It doesn't matter. I'm laying it. Deuce over.
Best bets.
Take it.
Three-man weave next on SportsGrid.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
I'm not saying this thing is scripted, but damn it, they put those two teams on the first weekend of the basketball season for a reason, because they were expecting some kind of fireworks. They got it. Did Angel Reese overreact? Probably. Did Caitlin Clark have to stare it down? Probably not. There's enough blame to go both sides. But guess who doesn't care? That's the WNBA.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series where they rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Back with you on SportsGrid to finish up another edition of Betting Above the Rim Pro Basketball today. Coach James Young, Tom Vecchio, Kevin Walsh here as we give you some best bets, some three-man weave, and set you up for a day of basketball that actually does begin in an hour with the Fever and the Liberty. So let's begin with our three-man weave. A favorite prop on today's slate, whether it is tonight's Western Conference Finals action or perhaps through today's W card. JY, where's your eye?
Double J. Jonquel Jones over 13.5 points. I think when you look at the matchup going against Aaliyah Boston, this is a Jonquel Jones that's averaging 13.5 points, or actually 14 points per game. 3 games last year. Over, under. That was that game they lost. And if you look at the game she went under, 11 points versus Chicago Sky, and that was in a blowout when she only played 22 minutes. Expected to get 30 minutes tonight. Jonquel Jones over 13.5 points.
I'm going with one of the ones we just talked about a couple segments ago, or last segment, whenever it was, the Anthony Edwards over 12.5 rebounds plus assists. Again, this has to be a well-rounded team effort. We know he's always going to do his part when it comes to rebounding the ball, almost nearly double digits in the first 2 games of the series. But again, the shooters around him knocking down shots will add in an extra assist here or there. 9 rebounds each of the first 2 games. Let's get right back there, maybe push towards that double-double. Other players knock down some shots, and we'll have Ant going over 12.5.
Paige Becker's over the 14.5 points at -110. As always, do your shopping, but it's still just a little bit extra juice. I'm not seeing 15.5 or anything like that in the market. As long as the Dallas Wings are competitive in today's game, which they're expected to be, Paige in the last 2, 37 minutes. So we expect that volume to be there. In the first game where she played 37, she scored 19 points on 7 of 14 shooting. The next game, she only scored 12, but on 3 of 11 shooting. I think you get a bounce back efficiency-wise from Paige Beckers as she continues to settle into her life in the WNBA and looks to be one of the more impactful players immediately. Again, if you look at the start to her, first 3 games, if you round up, 14, 5, and 7 is nothing to be upset about. The efficiency is where I think she's going to want to clean things up, scoring the basketball at 37% through 2 games. And it's not like it's because of some outrageous amount of three-point volume either. I think Paige Becker scores the basketball in that matchup with the Wings going against the Dream. Let's do some best bets here on the show, and then we can cover anything else that we haven't talked about just yet. JY, on this Saturday, what's your best bet?
Staying with the WNBA, I'm going over 173.5 in the game between New York and Indiana. You look at New York going to 170 and 173, I do believe, in their two matchups. Indiana, a team that could score and score in bunches, but has struggled a little bit defensively in their game so far. We're obviously not counting the Chicago Sky because they're absolutely terrible, but giving up 91 and 76 to the Atlanta Dream. New York much better than offensively. I think both teams get up in that exciting game at 1 o'clock. Give me over 173, Tom, and the Liberty versus Fever.
I'm staying in that same game, and let's go to Brianna Stewart over the 28.5 points plus rebounds. Obviously, as we just spoke about, playing the Sky, she only had 12 and 2, but that's not a game that she needed to score because they were winning, and they had them at arm's reach, and they had 4 other players going for double-digit points. So seeing her go 3 of 8 from the field obviously kind of jumps off the page just in terms of the volume, a little bit of the efficiency, but a much higher scoring game today. She'll be back at a spot where she could give you 20, 22 points, add in the rebounds, high-paced game back and forth. She goes over 28.5 points and rebounds.
I played Stewie as well for 20-plus today. There was a minus 120 out there. I think she has a really strong game as well. My best bet is a number I'm really surprised by. I wanted to play some Lou Dort threes, so I initially opened the 3-plus tab. I saw plus 280. I said, oh, say it ain't so. Sure is. Minus 115, Lou Dort to make 2. Lou Dort so far in this postseason has done that in 8 games. They've played 13. That's a winning record. If that juice, you'd take it every single time. But this is a dropping number. I think dropping a little bit due to the fact that this team is going on the road. Understandably, the first 2 against Memphis, 0-4, 0-4. Then the first game against Denver on the road, 0-4. But he finished that with 2 of 10 and 2 of 7. We saw volume upticks from game 1 to game 2. And this is someone in that Lou Dort is kind of due for a 3-for-4 game from beyond the arc. He is not. I know Dort shooting 40% in the regular season doesn't feel legit, but he's certainly better than the 28% that they've been getting from him so far in this postseason. So I expect that to bounce back 100%. A really fun show today, a fun and fast show as well. Coach James Young, Tom Vecchio, and Kevin Walsh. Catch Tom tomorrow on Pro Baseball today. Then myself and Coach late night with you here for Knicks Pacers. Game 3 in Indy with the Knicks season on the line.
Knicks win!
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and you know that's long rehab. You're talking
that's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times. But screw the Celtics.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
The 2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.